Few automotive designs are so iconic that they transcend the mandates of modernism, and none more so than the iconic Beetle. Now sure, there are the others as well. You have the 911, but where do you think that drew its inspiration from? Well, history lessons for another day. Today what we're going to find out over the duration of the next few minutes is, in the 21st century, what has become of the people's favorite bug. What you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, is the new third generation of the longest running, most manufactured car of a single platform ever. And by the looks of it, one where you can tell the front from the back. The Beetle design cues are obvious, however. I'd say the new generation is a little less effeminate too over the previous generations. Look, it's even got a spoiler at the back. Sure, it's still got rounded surfaces, but it feels more beefed up and slightly more masculine. The flared wheel arches really make the car wide. In fact, 30 mm wider than even the Jetta, the car this new generation Beetle is based on. It's become even more contemporary, what with beautiful frameless doors and bi-xenon headlamps and DRLs, which are absolutely stunning. The Beetle now comes in 4 color options. This one here is called Habanero Orange, after the hot Mexican chili pepper, but no more yellow. Of course, with the new age Beetles, the engine is in the more conventional position up in the front. So for India, what you get is a 1.4 litre turbo petrol TSI engine, which is good enough for about 150 PS of max power and about 250 Newton meters of max torque. Now, this was the engine that we wanted so badly with the Jetta, but well, we now have it with the Beetle and we're not complaining. Now, no manual gearbox options, but if it had to be an automatic, it had to be Volkswagen's 7-speed DSG dual clutch gearbox, which we've really come to love now. Now at the back, instead of the engine, is a boot, and a sizable one at that, with about 310 litres of storage space. Now for a person of my height and size, you realize once you manage to squeeze into the back seat with the front seat set to my own personal preference, it's not entirely unusable. So you have just about enough knee room, just about enough headroom, and remember, this is a wide car, so 2 people of my size can fit in at the back quite comfortably. So unlike other small 2-door hatchbacks, the rear seats in the Beetle are actually quite usable. The interiors are high quality all around. There's the obvious extensive use of leather, the Vienna leather seats, the leather wrapped steering wheel, handbrake lever and gear knob. The seat adjustment is, however, manual, which for a car this expensive may be an oversight. But the Beetle also now gets a panoramic sunroof that opens halfway. The wraparound panel matches the exterior color, and this gives the Beetle's cabin a youthful exuberance. But if you were to take away this wraparound body-colored panel, the interiors are quite quintessentially Volkswagen, and therein lies my problem with it. Now, you take the example of Mini, for instance. Now, even though there is a little bit of sharing with the BMW cars, but they made sure that the Minis are very distinctive from other BMW cars, and I think that's what Volkswagen should have done with the Beetle as well. Now, that apart, I think there are a few niggles that I'd like to mention. First of all, this mirror is way too small to see anything at the back. Secondly, the central armrest comes in the way of the parking brake and then covers one of the cup holders. So this is not something that you would expect from Volkswagen. But that apart, I think, don't get me wrong, it is a very, very well-built, quality cabin that is going to stand the test of time as well. So what's the new generation Beetle like to drive? Well, starts off nice and smooth and refined, and that's what we've grown to love about the TSI technology. And we're off. Now this drivetrain combination is absolutely superb. The 1.4 litre TSI and the DSG together are just great fun to drive. 0 to 100 times just under 10 seconds, top speed all the way up to 200 kilometers an hour and just beyond. Now, would I be inclined to make a Herbie movie on this third generation Beetle? Well, just because of this powertrain, absolutely. And what makes the 7-speed gearbox even more involving? You guessed it, paddle shifters. Now sure, you may argue that the 2-litre TSI would have been even more fun to drive with that extra bit of performance on tap, but I think the 1.4 TSI is the wiser engine option for India. Now let me explain. Volkswagen claims a fuel efficiency figure of 17.68 for the 1.4 TSI, which for a car that has 150 PS of max power does seem a little bit outlandish. But when we drove on our highway runs, we actually got a figure that was quite close to that, 17.1 kpl. Now that's partly because we did drive conservatively, but partly also because the engine can decouple itself with the gearbox when you lift off the gas. Now this decoupling mechanism can take a little bit of getting used to, because especially when you're expecting a little bit of engine braking or you're transitioning from the reverse gear to the forward gear and you suddenly find yourself rolling forward, and that can get a little disconcerting at times. The new Beetle gets a host of convenience gimmicks as well, like automatic headlamps, rain sensing wipers and cruise control. It's got gimmicks that aid efficiency like start, stop and regenerative braking. But the ones that matter more are the ones that are going to keep you safe. 6 airbags and a host of electronic aids like ABS, anti-slip regulation and traction control, to name a few. The electromechanical steering is absolutely precise. Now it's a little bit on the lighter side, but I can live with that because this car just feels so planted all the time. Now in terms of ride quality, it's something that you'd expect from a European spec car. Now it's on the firmer side. It's a little bit firmer than what you have on the Polo, which I think is the best setup for Indian conditions. But this is firm, but it doesn't really crash through everything. So in that sense, I'm quite happy with the ride quality as well. Now there is a little bit of torque steer, but that's due to the 250 Newton meters of torque that's available on the front wheels. You can't really escape that. But overall, I think I'm quite happy with the suspension and chassis setup. So the Beetle doesn't really feel like a Beetle, but it nonetheless feels like a car that's fun to drive, has a brilliant powertrain, exudes quality all around, and isn't something that'll only interest all your wealthy wives and daughters. Heck, I wouldn't mind one myself. So as I was saying, few designs are as evergreen. Okay, let's not go with evergreen, let's go with timeless. Few designs are as timeless as the Beetle, but could Ferdinand Porsche have envisioned that 80 years later this is what would become of his love bug? Probably not. Now sure, it carries the ethos and design cues from the original Beetle, but this now drives and feels like a modern, expensive, well-built machine. It's not the people's car anymore. And now that Volkswagen have dropped their tagline, Das Auto, which, well, originally belonged to the Beetle, this kind of signifies that even more.